I've had a longer think and a bit of a planning session to try and work out what I'm going to do in this vlog series. And what I'm going to try and do is something a bit like my main blog, which is when I take on a subject, I don't often do it all in one go, and I leave myself space to cover a subject over 2, 3, 4, even more posts. That's a nice way of working. And I'm going to take that idea into this blog, so that what I will do is usually an introduction saying hello and the housekeeping, that'll be section 1. And then in section 2, I'm pretty much always going to try and show you what's going on with the boat in terms of its practical work that week. For example, in this week that's just gone, I've been putting the heavy ballast in the boat and closing the centre compartment, so that'll appear on screen in just a moment. So section 1, the admin and the housekeeping. Firstly, once again, I'd like to thank everybody who's come and subscribed to my YouTube channel. That's really great. We are heading towards that 1,000 viewer mark where I could start to monetize the blog and just make a little bit of income back from all this. So that's a really great help. Second, a big thanks today is to a subscriber called Philip, never met, who bought me a coffee. That was really greatly appreciated. That's the second one, and it really makes a difference, so thank you very much. So the main piece of blog news today regards the sales, which is the main components which I'm waiting for at the moment. It's been about 3.5 weeks now since I did the measuring, and no word from the sailmaker, so I phoned them in blog talk yesterday morning, and I hear that they're on the loft floor, which is great news. And that should mean that the next major video, which will appear hopefully about a week's time, will be about fitting the sails for the very first time. So that's really good news, because at the moment nearly all of the other jobs on the boat are done, and that's really what I'm waiting for. And so on to part 3 of this video blog. Now, I have to admit that this is my second attempt at actually filming this whole series. And what I did in the first one is I chose to focus on an historical event, which was the fishing boat disaster at Eyemouth in Scotland. And I was taking the angle of what happened there in relation to small boats. But I subsequently scrapped the whole thing, because the information that I was working with wasn't the full story, and I went back and researched it properly, and so changed my mind big time. But it did bring up a really interesting point, and one of the major points from that story is that boats were possibly lost or damaged and then lost because of shifting ballast. Now, this goes back to the 19th century. This is literally 1881, and most of those fishing boats, even the big ones at 44 to 50 feet, were ballasted with simple rocks and stones. And it's said that in one of the reports that I'm reading is that a problem with those fishing boats is the ballast simply shifting in the boat and crashing around, doing all the damage inside the boat, and perhaps contributing towards them capsizing in breaking seas. Now, of course, if we come right forward into the 20th century, we have the story of the Fastnet race of 1979, and a personal connection is that I had only just started my sailing career in 1978, and I could have potentially sailed in the 79 Fastnet race, but the boat that I regularly crewed for considered that I was not experienced enough at that stage, so they went to sea. They had a really bad time, and I didn't. One of the lessons that came out of the 1979 Fastnet race was that many boats suffered internal damage because of heavy objects coming loose and literally flying around inside the boat. Yes, it was internal ballast some of the time. I think batteries were a large part of that. I think one engine came loose completely. Just imagine, several hundred kilos of metal flying around inside of the boat doesn't do it any good. So with relation to that story, and then just going back to the historical story, and of course at the same time I'm doing the ballast for WABI, I wanted to focus on what I'm doing and why I'm doing it in that way. So I think there's a few raised eyebrows about me putting basically granite blocks in the boat as ballast, but that's actually quite historical, because certainly in the 18th and 19th century most sailing boats were ballasted with rocks. Historically, it's a little bit entertaining because the granite blocks that we have at home came from the Royal William Naval Yard down at Devonport. They were part of the wall there, so at some point they've had sailing warships alongside them. Anyway, look, the eventual plan with the ballast for my boat will be a big fixed AGM battery of about 65 kilos, and that's about the same amount of weight as I put in. The important thing today is I've put the ballast in so really tightly, so it's all got keyed together, and it's got loads of camping mat around it to keep it in place. And then I think I even put a big old, I think it's an old curtain all wadded up, so it holds it in place. What it means is the ballast can't fly around, it can't come out, and with the lid screwed down, even dry fitted for now, that should be sound. So if there's a lesson today, it's this: it's that I've taken a kind of historical lesson from the 19th century, which is what went, something that went wrong with small fishing boats, and then dialed forward to the 1979 fast net race. Yeah, boat design has changed enormously, of course. We're not in the 19th century, and I'm not sailing a replica 19th century boat. I'm sailing a modern and very well designed day boat, being converted into an expedition boat. So boat design has changed. The thing that doesn't change is the sea, and if you like, we've come through an age where we've had things like the 79 fast net race, when I think rather stupidly and arrogantly we maybe thought we could go to sea and get away with things. And one lesson of the sea is you really can't get away with stuff. So something that happened 200 years ago and probably even longer can happen again today. And things like ballast can still shift and things can go wrong. So learning the lessons kind of needs to look historically a bit as to things that went wrong in the past and what we can gain from them today. Excuse me. I'm very wary about these things historically because, for example, the 1881 Eyemouth fishing disaster, it'd be really tempting to talk about that disaster in a modern context, but I think it's slightly wrong to, because we aren't there then, and we aren't subject to the economic forces that made those sailors go out that day and ultimately die. But I think the lessons of the sea are the same. I think those are ones that we can use. So anyway, that's my little story of today. So that's it really for today. I'm going to close this up because I want to try and keep these video vlogs quite short, and that means more people will watch more of them and hopefully watch them regularly. So I'd like to say thank you for watching, and I'll hopefully see you next time, hopefully with some nice little technical work about putting sails on my boat, and I hope also taking WABI out on the road for the first time, because that's also a thing on my horizon. Thank you, and have a really good day.